Football Club. Happy fucking birthday. Carlton, 12 goals, 880. Beat the Bombers, 7 goals, 1254 on their 150th birthday.
Do you know what I mean? I thought Mickey Mouse Clubhouse had taken over the WWE when James Harden come out. The fuck was that about?
How was that at the start? Beating their chests and like looking each other in the eye, making promises that we all knew the Bombers were not going to keep.
Mate, happy birthday, Essendon.
Happy birthday. Yes. Go to the game.
You saw the whole preamble, the pomp and all that stuff. Why did they film it like a music video? You don't want to verse Carlton when it's your anniversary, just put it that way.
The way we moved the ball today, especially off half-back, was just brilliant.
The fringe players really stood up tonight, in my opinion. Fisher and others. I'm a bit pissed to fucking name a few more, but no, it was a really good effort all round. Solid performance from 22 players, really.
No, I thought Nunes, I saw he had 25 positions. So he was really, really good at...
Young Zachary.
Terry, how you doing?
What's going on, Zach? My man.
Come on.
Let's do this.
This is absolutely great, and I'm going to say this, but piss off, Bombers, and I hope you enjoyed your 150th.
Geez, how good is Zach, mate? I just want to big him up there, mate. He's fantastic. And Miles and I were pretty adamant this week that you just had to go in there, go in, out, 4 points, and away you go.
Hello.
We had some interesting words to say about the Bombers before the game that we won't be repeating here. Where's the competition?
We kick a goal and it'd be like, yay! Then they kick a goal and it'd be like, oh, okay.
I got home and I said to my husband, I said, it was really weird.
Yeah.
And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I don't know, I'm happy, but it was just a really strange vibe.
Alex.
Terry, mate, was it ever in doubt? Honestly, was it ever?
Not. It was not. It was not in doubt.
I'm telling you, man, that was one of the weirdest comfortable feelings I've ever had in my life.
Brother Tezza!
No,
how you going, my brother? Up here on the Gold Coast, mate. The baggers are outside belly dancing, brother. They are belly dancing. And that rivalry, it's always going to fucking be there.
A rubbish football club, Essendon is. Aren't they, mate? Like,
absolute fucking shithouse, mate.
I'll try not to swear for you, but
no, you can swear that they are shithouse.
I hate that football club, and you know that. That bloody spew sesh at the start of the game? What the hell was that shit about?
Turn it up is what I say about that.
Liz, how are ya?
Mate, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. The Blue and Broad Show, Monday night after a round 13 win. Got the Pom on board. Pom, my palms are sweating, bro. The season is alive.
It is indeed. I mean, 4 big takeouts for me from that fan cam compilation is one, I know he's watching. Shout out to Paolo for finding a jumper that fits him. How good is Zach? I've got to say, I was talking to my mate Macmillan. He was that drunk. I have no idea how he was so coherent. And Webby swearing with a love heart dream catcher behind him. That is quality. I've got to say, brilliant fan cams. That.
There's a lot going on. Young Zach, I think he steals the show every time he comes on, and Webby gets me going. When Webby gets going for his hatred for Essendon and whatnot, he brings it out of me. I can turn from ultra professional to just ultra rap bad, just saying it how it is, you know.
I've got to say, I love Jack as well. And he, well done as well for breaking his virginity of swearing on the show. Good lad. Look, Uncle Pom condones it. Get the swear words out.
He'll be an adult before he knows it, and we'll go from there. But no, look, mate, I was pretty calm. I mean, I am still pretty calm, not going to lie. But obviously, after watching that blockbuster at the MCG just now and having a look at the Pies, they're well and truly in the mix now, knowing we've got a big game coming up and really having a look at the ladder and we're at this point in the year, which is weird because usually at this point we're sort of saying, oh, well, look, we're a mathematical chance of making finals, but deep down you kind of know we just don't match it with the top teams. Whereas now, for the first time in a decade, in essence, we're thinking about, okay, we're one of the better teams in the competition, definitely in the top, we would say, the top half of the competition at least. It's just a different feeling to prepare for.
Oh, usually at this stage, like the Nostradamus of draft picks by this stage now, I know who we're taking pick one. Spot on. I mean, Collingwood, fair play to them, absolutely took the game to Melbourne. It was a good game to watch. I know Manny's in chat, so he'll be very happy. Much love to him. It's anyone's league. So now it's just a case of Carlton do what they do. And how good would it be, though, to have an elimination final against these melts, against Pies? Tell you, that's what I want. I want a granny, like Edwina says, a granny versus the Pies.
Give the people what they want. We're going to talk about a few things tonight. We're going to obviously talk about the win on Friday night. We're going to have to move on pretty quickly given the situation of the next game being such a short turnaround. But just for those of you in the audience, I want to prepare you for a few things. We're going to talk about, obviously, have your votes ready when we get to the votes for round 13. But then later on in the show, I want to talk a bit. We'll probably start with Caleb Marchbank. Then I want to talk about who our best 6 or 7 players are if everyone was fully fit in defence. And so I'll plant the seed in your minds now, have a think about it, get your lists ready, and then be ready to contribute a little later in the show. But for now, Pommy, Friday night, round 13, the job was done. The party was spoiled. What was your takeaway from the game on a high level now that we've had a few days to digest it? And those of you at home, 3 words to describe what Friday night was.
It was grinding, wasn't it? It was a grinding win. I think it's summarised by the fourth quarter, 15 players on average Essendon had behind the arc, which they killed it. It was nice to hear a Carlton coach as well say the game was pretty much over at halftime. You don't often hear that said by us. It's been said against us a few times, but for me, it wasn't the most prettiest game. I mean, it's not going to win prizes for its art form. But I thought the biggest takeout for me is a lot has been said this year about some real nonsense things about our football club. They're one-dimensional. They can only score from one factor. But to score 0 points from centre clearances, which we lead the way in the combat, and to have 58 points from transition, which is what we were really poor at, is a big plus for me. And top sides find a way to win in other ways. And Melbourne are already starting to say the excuses of losing Stephen May. You'd say one of the top 3 defenders in the competition. Carlton are obviously doing that without Wheaterin. And let's be honest, Wheaterin is a huge... You saw it against Essendon. And Essendon aren't much cop. How much you miss Wheaterin. So I think it's good. And I think the biggest thing for Carlton on the takeout, and I keep saying this, round 18, we have a full complement of players pretty much, barring 2 players with sick notes all the time. So it's a really exciting thing, and we're starting to really see what this Foss is about. And the third quarter, seeing him go off, I think that's the best thing. The fact that we were winning and time's gone by, you know that the coach would have sat down and been like, oh, we won, who cares? The fact that there's winning a right way, which Vossi said in the post-game press conference, excites me because that means there's a standard there.
Yeah, obviously the optics of it is great for us fans. We love to see the coach get passionate, and there are certain times where it works. I guess what I'm trying to say is you need to pick your spots and you need to make sure you do it through the right channels. It seemed like from the footage that it was directed to the group via Patrick Cripps. And so you hope and you trust that there's a real trust between the two of them, which I would say there is. And yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to see that the standard is lifting. And I also think that's got something to do with what the weird vibe was on Friday night. A lot of people came on the fan cams and made note of the atmosphere not quite being the full blockbuster that we would hope it would have been. And it's probably due to the fact that we expected us to beat them by more. We expected to be a much better side, which we were at the end of the day. We got the 4 points. And you saw when we got them off turnover how much space we had forward of centre when they weren't prepared. So, yeah, I'm really keen to see how it plays out, because the reality is if we show up like what we did in the last 35, 40 minutes of gameplay to the Tigers, then that's gonna give us some issues.
Yeah, and you can only beat sides if they go for it. I was speaking to a very good mate of mine. He's in the Essendon cheer squad, and he was actually disgusted that he said half of the cheer squad actually left at 3/4 time because they did a rotten, as they call it, and they said they really got the sense that he threw men behind the ball, and it was trying to keep the score respectable on their 150th. And he's a proper fan like we are. He wants to see them give it a go. Whether they lose or not, he wants to see them give us a go. And I think it was tough for Voss because for all the fanfare, the pomp and circumstance pre-game, like they've got that Senator Biggs there to do. I mean, he was the best part of Essendon for me. I actually enjoyed that bit, even though it was about them moats. But he was quite theatrical. But the fact that they actually came out knowing that they were going to lose and it was to keep it respectable left a sour taste in my mouth. It was like watching Floyd Mayweather at 65, just trying to avoid being hit. So it's tough, but obviously there's a standard there, and I think that's a big thing for the boys. And next week, well, this week coming, I think that's going to be you'll see a different side because Richmond, they're going to be up for it. They're going to give it a go.
Yeah. I don't like to give mainstream media too much attention here on the channel, but when I watch the replay and I listen to the commentary, because obviously on Friday I was at the game with no commentary, I don't understand what the sentiment, rhetoric, mentality is about the commentators giving Essendon credit. I'm missing something. They played finals last year. I'm truly missing something. And if it was the other way around and we had put in that performance, I feel like there would be doomsday scenario plastered all over the papers and online. And I just don't understand the mentality of the commentary. Why were we not given credit, and why were Essendon made out to be this brave side that just hung on? And it's fascinating to me.
Paolo, my boy, sums it up cowardly. It was a very cowardly way to play football. It was a very cowardly way to football. But to answer your question about mainstream media, we exist for one reason, because we know our onions and we are willing to give our team a crack up the arse when it needs it, but also credit where credit's due. And to be honest, I don't often read mainstream media. I usually do it just to validate my own opinions, but I can't do it too much because I'll start thinking I'm a messiah. But it's if you look at it, the Carlton Football Club and Collingwood, I'll give them some kudos, are two teams that are going into this year that were written off and are playing a brand of football and really keeping your Tom Browns, your BTs in a job. Because when we're the number one and number two common team in the comp, the AFL will make more money than it's ever made. Will make more money. And listen to the Collingwood fans today. They said it was like a Premier League ground. It was. When I listened to you boys, when I watched the team back this week, I listened to you guys and girls at the crowd. Massive noise on their 150th. All I could hear was blue baggers. Wait for that. When it's Carlton Collingwood dominating this division for the next 10 years, mate, they'll still soon recognise who the real big fish are, because the rest are just literally there. We own them. Us and Collingwood, we own the AFL. It is our league.
Absolutely. Let's talk a bit. There's a few questions I want to talk about with our team on Friday, because I think going in most weeks we talk about our midfield and the names on paper, and it just looks like they'll dominate any given game. I got the sense that it wasn't necessarily those big names this week. It was more about the Cottrells, the Noonses, and the guys that sometimes get labelled as fringe players who really, really stood out within their roles within the system. What did you put that down to?
Well, I mean, to layman's terms, because we're a good team. So you look at a good team has many ways to skin a cat. I always look at 2017 Richmond as the template of what I mean by that, because before then, Dustin Martin was a flash in the pan. He was a guy that could be good. Very inconsistent. Rewalt was a workhorse. Do you know what I mean? He was a very good forward. But you look at them, that Richmond 2017 side, your McIntosh, your Butler who came in last minute, your Jacob Townsend. These players weren't big names. They were very good footballers. Jack Nooms, we know I'm a big fan of Jack Nooms. I think he's the most unheralded player at our club. He gets so much abuse. But you look at that game there, he was in all but 6 scoring chains this week.
Wow.
Insane. Number 2 scoring chain player in the comp behind
Jack
Shai
Nooms?
Bolton. So, huge. And it's them little things there. It's why Kennedy has suddenly come to the fore, because Voss puts so much onus on Rolls. They have to do it. Before, it was literally Patrick Cripps and Harry Mackay and Wheater in Roadshow. Now, the tactics are there for Rolls. You heard him today, Voss, talk about small forwards, his half forwards, how he'd hate to be one because he asked them to do so much work, not only defensively, but offensively as well, but also in running patterns and teeing up the play. That is a huge thing for me. You see Lockie O'Brien, he plays his role. All these players are doing that now. And I think that's why it's a huge thing for us that you're actually seeing now. There's many ways to skin a cat. It's no longer Cripps having 40 touches and Mackay kicking 10. Now we can hurt you many ways. Look at Owies. Owies in the second quarter was probably our most dangerous player at times. And 2 years ago, people were saying, delist him. What a waste of time having a basketballer on your list.
It's true. Ulgur Cocken with the 31 says he's loving the show, and thank God we have Blue Abroad because Fox Sports sucks. They go, all right, Fox Sports. We have a love-hate relationship at times. Pom, you mentioned also, and you just sort of touched on it there as well, you mentioned on Friday night fan cams about the way we score and being the one-dimensional team that we used to perceive to have been. Do we just have confidence now that that's it? We've shown that we can score off turnover, or is this a game? I'm looking at it as a building block. It's one of the bricks in the wall that we're trying to build. And the score off turnover game, I think that's the example just there on Friday night. That's probably the best I've seen this group do it.
Mate, spot on. And I think the big thing people forget about Carlton, and it's a huge thing for me that they forget, is I think our transition, genuinely, we are the number 1 side in differential over the last 6 weeks now. The problem is Wheatering genuinely is the most key ingredient of that, because you see where he takes his marks. They're about 70 out. He's the backstops, which allows our real heavy press. If they miss that tackle, invariably, he manages to peel off and get it straight back in there. You've got him to come back. Now, I'm saying this. If Wheatering was there last week, we would have won that game by about 50, I'd say, or more, because there was a load of times that Young was phenomenal, and no one's talked about this. Young had 12 spoils, the leader. He was the leader on the ground. Carlton only, the best was 50% win ratio one-on-one. That is against the second best side at marking inside 50. We had to find a spoiler. Wheatering is our key guy, though, our key guy in that. So for me, that is a real exciting thing that these boys now are going to have to learn another way. And if that's licked, suddenly you've got 3 or 4 layers to skin a cat. At the moment, our transition has been Wheatering intercepts, or it's brought down to ground and we go out that way. If Marchbank and Wheatering start mastering that skill without Wheatering there, when Wheatering comes back, suddenly it's a total different scenario. Wheatering will have watched that, and I reckon he's like brilliant, because he had that same journey when Jones was injured and he had to be the head guy.
Yeah.
Suddenly Young's getting that. So for me, I'm so excited when Wheaters comes back with Young, because Young, look, the dog's bollocks this weekend.
Yeah, man. And that's the part as well. Obviously we've had some injuries to some key players, and you sort of ask yourself, why is this happening? What does it all mean? I'm hoping that once Wheatering's back, we're going to look back and reflect on his absence, and we're going to say, well, you know what? You have to test the list is going to be tested all year round. Round 2, no coach. What's the response? Losing Harry, how's Charlie going to go without Harry? What's it going to look like? Losing Wheatering, or can Lewis Young really step up and elevate and be asked to do more than what he's already doing. Caleb Marchbank comes in. How's he going to go? Uncertain. Is he match fit? Can he impact? So just along the way, questions are being answered and boxes are being ticked. And ultimately, you've got to be prepared for anything because that's life. And then, on a more intense level, finals football it's everything's elevated and senses are heightened and all sorts of crazy things can go down. So you've got to be ready for it. Chera going out early in the game, can we make up for that? Can Fisher rise to the occasion? Can Cottrell rise to the occasion? So just little ticks along the way, bank the wins and move on.
Spot on. And like Vossi said, there was something he said in the press conference that really did turn me on because I've probably had the most arguments about this all year about percentage. And it was real to the point about it, saying that you don't celebrate percentage, you celebrate wins.
Yeah.
And he's right. The cold hard facts are it's getting harder to play finals genuinely. 13 finals sees you make every final for the last 30 years. So 13 wins is really the new 12 wins. 12 wins makes every final but 2018 and 2006, which was on percentage. So you can see Voss has got that mantra of win is important. The win is important. And he said they have to learn how to win. And that is a real key point people forget. It's real funny how our fan base and the media have forgotten this time last year, we were dog shit. Like, honestly, we were a joke. We were memes like, don't send North to Tasmania, send Carlton. Do you know what I mean? You've got to remember 2018, 2 wins, man. 2 wins. So he's right. They have to relearn. And you can see by Vossi going off in the third quarter, there is a way he wants them to win. And it was very important. He didn't use our way or anything like that. He used the phrase their way and their brand. And remember, Teague used to say our way. I love the way he said it's theirs because it's player-led. At the end of the day, it's his idea. They have to execute. And that is what he kept saying. He used execute 6 times in that press conference. Very important, that very key word. So I'm very excited about what Voss is doing with these boys.
Mm-hmm. Cameron with the $15 says, we are using our entire list, which is giving widespread experience. The next man up philosophy instilled belief in our boys. Mate, fucking get that up again. Read that again. Spot on. Very well said. We sit here, we spoke last week about how we've used, or a few weeks ago, about how we had used the equal most players with West Coast on the list. And, it goes one of 2 ways. It goes, we've used that many players and therefore we're struggling because we've got injuries. Or it goes, we've used 36, 37 players now and, we're giving the entire list experience and they're all going to be prepared to play a role. And, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, as you know. I like it.
Mate, 12 months ago, it was about this time that the rumours started that Teague was sacked. Now, if anyone remembers rightly, about 64% of the fan base wanted Teague to stay because of 2 reasons. He had the same win percentage as some of the best coaches in the game.
That's right.
And the second one, right, and this is my favourite one. Oh, look at the injuries. Okay, well, let's look at the injuries. Voss has had more, if not more devastating injuries, because you've got to remember at the time, Charlie Curnow, everyone was saying was done, was finished, was retired. Little Pom here was saying, he's 100 goals a year. No, he's not Pom. He's working in Sainsbury's next week, right? Now he's got it. He's got the worst injuries. Wheatering, Mackay. Do you know what I mean? He lost Walsh, heaven forbid, for the first game. He keeps getting them. Suddenly, though, top 4. So all I'm saying is life is fucking good. Life is good. Just kick back with your Uncle Bomb. Take your shoes off, get a comfy chair and enjoy the ride.
Life is good. The forwards I want to touch on. So, God, it's obviously a real pleasure to have Charlie and Harry on the list playing at their best. And for whatever, not for whatever reason, we know why we haven't been able to see them both in the same team for an extended period of time due to injury. I'm hoping this is the turning point in the luck of that. But like I said on Friday night, like I said in the review, like the imagination runs wild when you've got the 2 of them who possess the attributes that they have, but also now, the work rate and, Charlie's really matured a lot clearly from what's happened. He talks a lot about being grateful for every game that he plays. Marchbank's the same. Harry, we know Harry's professionalism can't be questioned. We know the work that he puts in away from the club and the little things that he gets to do outside of the confines of what all the players are doing in the AFL to be that 1 or 2% better. And look, let's give him some credit as well because of how quick it seemed that he was able to get back up to his best. And he looked like he hadn't missed a beat on Friday night, Harry.
They're starting to get a synergy.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough as Roundball to see probably some of the best partnerships in the history of the world go together. And one that always strikes true to me is Andy Cole and Dwight York. They were like a sixth sense with them. They knew where each other was running. They had no selfishness as well. You could see they wanted to beat each other, but their priority was winning. And watching Charlie give off a goal from a kickable position said everything I needed to know about them, that they prioritize winning first over everything, over selfishness. But you could see there was a genuine hunger. And these two, I'm telling you now, I observe this game a lot. There is no defense in the league that can stop them two. There is no defense. And Adonis and Big Pete Sorby always have good comments. There is a guy that I do want to talk about later when we do get onto the VFL, that Josh Honey is building in to be that next caveat of that piece. But you've got to remember, you stop them two, Martin can kick goals, Owies can kick goals, then the goals come from the midfield, do you know what I mean, as well? That is tough to go. No team in the world would want to play Harry and Charlie. And when you sit next to Jacob Wheater and you ask him what's it like to train with these guys, and all the blood drains out of his face, that says everything. Do you know what I mean? Literally says everything. It drains out of his face the thought of going on them. And he's the best centre-half back in the league.
Yeah, it's true. And that's probably the other thing that we miss because we don't get to watch training every day, clearly. We get the occasional open training session or very occasional. I think occasional is very, very, that's not the right word to be using. We don't get to see them train at all. But, it used to be, what's the chicken and the egg? Do you bring in better talent to raise the standards at the club, or do you, build it from within? And you've got Charlie who plays on Wiedering or Harry that plays on Wiedering. They're the best at what they do in the league, and we're blessed to have them both on the same team. And then when you think about it as well, like with Caleb Marchbank, okay, he comes back from the injury, he's back at training, straight onto Harry or straight onto Charlie. He's playing on one of the two of those guys. So the preparation, and it goes both ways as well. It goes with with Harry learning how to score on Jacob Wiedering and the like, and so all of a sudden we've started to get this. We've started to get this situation where the best in the league at what they do are playing on each other every day at training. And, it's a very fortunate position to be in.
Yeah, we always are. And I mean, like you, sponsoring a player, I sponsored Dom. Him telling me as well that these guys batter you in training, but then pull you over to one side and say, this is how I beat you. This is how I beat you. This is what I did. And this is how I knew you do that. And then Wheatering's doing the opposite and saying to the young forwards, this is how I can clean you up. This is how I know how to beat you. You do this and I can know you're going to do this. That's huge because we're very fortunate. Our pillars, without being biased, are probably the best in the league. I'd say Wheatering is easily the best centre-half back in the league. I'd say Young, the way he's going, he'd be close to one of the best fullbacks in the league. Do you know what I mean? Based on form over the last 4 weeks, definitely in the top 10. And then the other end, Harry and Charlie, easily 1 and 2 in the league. So imagine playing that in training. Like, if you can stop Harry kicking a goal, you can stop anyone kicking a goal.
It's true.
We need a flag. What the fuck am I on about? There's the analysis. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Let's talk about Andrew Russell and Nick Austin. These are two people that I just think a lot of people have been given love this year, and rightly so, because things have turned around. We've spoken about Luke Sayers. We've spoken about Brian Cook, Michael Voss, the leaders, Doc, Cripper, stepping up. I think Nick Austin's recruitment thus far in his time as the real decision maker has been outstanding. And I think Andrew Russell, for all the criticism about the player management in 2020, when we had the 4 games in 13 days, last year with the repeat injuries and all of that. And, do the boys look fit enough? What's the story? The concept, just think about it. Marchie, Charlie Curnow, and Doherty all played on Friday night. And these are guys that I think especially Marchbank and Charlie, most, if not all of us were saying they'll either never play again, or if they do play, they'll never be the same player or never look like being the same player again. So, I obviously want to give credit to the players for putting in the work to get there, but under the guise of the program, I think the whole situation needs to be applauded because it's a great effort.
The back room are phenomenal. I mean, Russell cops a lot of shit, but I mean, a lot of his injuries this year, aside from McGovern, and I'm pretty sure McGovern could get injured on the International Space Station, to be honest. I'm at that stage now. Zero gravity and the guy would pull a hammy. So it's a tough one. I think he's kind of hard done by in a way, Russell. And I do get there was always speculation someone undermined him last year, that he was not allowed to make the final call. We know Vossi has spoke that he leans on his medical staff a lot and his fitness staff. To be fair, they are getting back very early, aren't they? And they are staying fit, touch wood. I think the biggest one, though, for me is O'Keefe, because he's handling these resis, and I watched the resis. I'm a big VFL fan. This week, to see Chera's role suddenly be played by 2 different players, right, and being rotated, and I could actually see, oh, okay, you're getting that role. Oh, okay, now it's you. Absolute genius. So for me, I actually think O'Keefe, he needs 20% of Carlton winning all these games. He needs 20% of it because it's him who brings the next guy in when we're injured. That next man up mentality, it's all O'Keefe and his staff. So shout out to you, bro.
Absolutely. It just makes me so happy to be talking about all the pieces of the club while we're going through the season. These are not discussions we've been having ever on this channel. That's the truth. But, I think when I look at last week with the Marchbank announcement, the way it was done, the way they were all circled each other, the rhetoric, the constant reinforcement that we are all in this together, it's really pleasing. And that is what's going to stand the test of time, because it's a long year. It's a bloody hard sport to play, and it's a bloody hard sport to win, let alone win enough games to get you into the playoffs or the finals. And so, you've just got to take the good times as they come and know that, the challenges are along the way. But just some kudos to those who haven't had it, in my view.
Mate, it's a team effort. And I suppose, end of the day, the man who makes this happen, Luke Sayers, ultimately, he is the guy that signs them in and does that. And he's put the processes in. He's got the perfect people. He's backed Voss to get the people in he wants. And you know what? Times are good. And you know what? Just quietly, let's clip this. 7:33, 13th of June, 2022. This is a dynasty. This is what a dynasty fucking looks like, ladies and gentlemen. This is what it looks like.
It's the start of it, hopefully. Bit to get through. Let's go through the votes. Before I do that, I'm going to let you all in on the coaches' votes from the game. So Sam Doherty, the inspirational man, was given 10 votes, full votes there. Cripper was given 6. Harry Mackay and Lewis Young were both given 5. Nick Newman was given 2, and Dylan Shear was given 2. Those of you in the audience, please put in your 3, your 2, and your 1 votes. Pommy, how did you see it?
3, Doc, absolutely sensational. Mr. Sweep. He just sweeps everything up. 2, Mr. Young, absolute sensational. And 1 vote, the legend that is Patty Cripps. It was brilliant. I mean, Cripps was 3 votes any week but this week.
Mm-hmm. I went with 3 for Doc. I gave Nick Newman the 2, I think it was, and I gave Lewis Young the 1. Now, having seen the coaches' votes, just makes me wonder on Brownlow night, what will it look like? Who will get? Because I think the previous games where we think Cripps will vote have been really clear. This one, I don't think everyone had Cripps in their best three. However, I think if the coaches do, well, the umpires certainly probably do. So I wonder how that's going to go down. I think like you said, we'll bookmark this night and try and remember it come Brownlow night when you and I are doing the watch along.
It'll be 3 votes, Cripps. It's the mid. I mean, it's called the Brownlow, but it should be called the midfield low. Do you know what I mean? Like he gets bonus points for playing mid.
Very true. And what about another player that didn't get a vote, but you want to give him a little bit of a shout out, like an honourable mention?
Honourable mention this week would go to fast becoming close to my favourite player in the list, Adam Sard. Just everything he does. He's just there. Whenever you watch TV on the watch on, you're like, oh shit, we're fucked here. This guy just comes out of nowhere, lays a spoil, picks up the loose ball. I love Sard. Sard is my life. I love Sard.
Absolutely. Ugo with the 15 again gives Charlie all the votes. That is a great way to palm his heart right there.
Good man.
I'm going to go with a guy who I like to take every opportunity to give him a little bit of a pump up, and that's number 20, Lockie Plowman. I think the last month of football, or the last 4 games that he's played, has really shown his commitment levels to the cause. I think when he was dropped, or when he wasn't selected, I should say, earlier in the year, the question mark was, Voss knows, is this the end of Plowman? Who knows? I think since he's come back into the team, he has played with seemingly a new level of intensity and the intensity that the coaching staff require. These are the standards now, and I think it's full credit to him. I said this in my player ratings, I think it was. I at times, I questioned whether, Plowman was obsessed with winning a flag as opposed to just being a part of a special group. And no matter what happens, if they win a flag or if they don't, they're going to have great memories with each other when they retire. They'll look back on. It's really the flag that solidifies the legacy. So at times I did question his obsession with that. But seeing the way he plays now, with the spirit and energy he plays now, it kind of reminds me that, again, we don't know what goes on the inside, and that's the truth. And then number 2, we don't know how they're coached, and we don't know what their motivations are. But well done to Lockie Plowman. I think he's really turned a corner.
No, I agree with you. I think we've both had iconic fan cam moments with Plowman. He made me retire. Do you know what I mean? He actually killed Pom. But I give you, he is starting to become, dare I say it, reliable. Do you know what I mean? He is working hard down that back. He is working hard, and he did a fabulous blocking game this week at stopping leading runs. So, yeah, I agree with you.
I think he allows Marchbank to fly the way Marchbank flies and peel off the way Marchbank peels off. They've always had that chemistry, even back in 2017 when they were playing. I remember it so clearly. Plowman, Marchbank, and Doc had this, with Simo obviously back then, they had this synergy about them, and they seemed to just make each other click. So, well done to Plow. We have gone way over schedule, but that's okay. Fuck it. We'll go back to Caleb Marchbank. Just some words on mate, he played. It's crazy. A lot of the commentary before the game from everywhere, whether it was fans, opposition fans, media, was about, how we made the right choice. He's underdone. He's played X amount of quarters in 3 years, blah, blah, blah. Why are we risking him? He looked so fine to me on Friday night. And it's a really special this year seems to be the year of the comeback, doesn't it, for us? We've got all these magical comeback stories.
It did, yeah. I did the show last week with Dog from memory, and I said that if he gets to play the remaining games, it'll be a smoky. He'll be a smoky for all Australian, that all Australian conversation of what if. Because I think the best our defence has played was probably Marchbank in it. McGovern in it, because of his ability to peel off. Yeah, I do think Carlton missed that. And I think Wheatering played better with McGovern as well, because I think it was less obvious who was doing the intercepting. But for me, watching Marchie, he was brilliant. He was a bit loose at times, and you can see there was a little bit of gamemanship that he hasn't quite worked out how players move. But his ability to read in flight and spoil, bring the ball to ground. He went at 50% as well. He did spend a decent amount of time as well on right. They did switch them round, which I thought was bold, but I actually thought right looked really bad when Margie started to follow him around. So good signs, good signs. He tidies that up. He gets used to the fact now that he's got Sard next to him, not Simo. And I think we'll be cooking on gas. And I'd like to see him take a bit more brave kicks on. I think he was a little bit, at times you could see he was a little bit nervy with his kicking. Once that comes back, we know what a good user he is. I think, yeah, we're laughing.
Yeah. Well, then it opens up the question that I had for us earlier in the show. And those of you who were watching earlier, let's talk about it. So at the end of the year, we're all moving towards and planning towards a situation where everyone's healthy, as everyone is. So let's just talk about our best back seven, because you pick six probably that start in the field, and you probably pick one that rotates in that mix as well. I don't know, like for me, we in the ideal world, like, you know, the premiership team, it's the pillars are Wiedering and Marchbank for me. And, you know, then there's that third who I think it's McGovern, but Lewis Young looks to really be getting to a point where it's like, no, you have to have him in the side. So then you've got Sard and Doc, Williams and Newman, Boyd's in the mix. What is the best seven? Like, what do we do?
God, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, for me, Marchbank over McGovern all day.
Yep.
So if I was picking it, I would go Marchbank, Young, Doc, Sard, Wiedering, Newman slash Stocker, because I think Stocker's taking that role. I think that's Newman. And I'd still have Plowman there for purely because I think that you need a one-on-one. And I think that they're quick enough to play. I think looking at that, Williams may struggle to get back in that team. I think you've actually seen that potentially what Carlton lose in his gamesmanship and his ability, I think Carlton gain a lot in transitional threat.
Yeah, it's a great discussion because, yeah, I think the three pillars will be the three that we just mentioned in Young, Wiedering, and Marchbank, if everyone's fit. You know, Sard and Doherty are non-negotiables to be playing. Newman's done nothing wrong. We know McGovern is better, makes the team better. It's going to be interesting. Now, I expect there to be challenges, and there may or may not be injuries down the track that prevent, you know, all of them from being available. But God, it's a great thought. God, it's a great discussion. Now, Stocker, I'm with you. I mean, I think eventually Stocker will be the guy in there for maybe Newman. But I think in the present moment, in this year, I think Newman probably gets the nod right now. Mate, it's exciting.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I think the one at risk is Newman. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think he gives the shift. But I think that if I was Voss, I'd be saying, what is his end game? What is his end game? I think Newman is at his peak at the moment. Yeah. I think is at his peak. And watching the VFL and watching how they play Stocks, they play him a lot more aggressively. So I'd say that's the area there that Stocks, Newman, and Williams are fighting for. I think that's the one.
You know, and obviously, you know, you guys spoke about Tom Williamson last week, and looks like he's not going to be part of those plans for an indefinite period of time or whatever's going on. So that's a really tough back six to crack into. The other one as well, kind of off the cuff with Stocker, but I'll go there anyway. So I'm thinking this defensive mechanism looks pretty set, and it's a pretty tough mix to get into. I love what we're doing with Stocks. I trust the plan. Luke Power came on last year and spoke about how they want to start him there, and maybe at some point down the future we look at him being a midfielder. I'm thinking we're putting the time and energy into Paddy Dow being this inside midfielder, and I'm just playing devil's advocate. What if we put the same amount of time into Stocker being the next inside midfielder that comes off the rank? Because I don't sense the same trust in in Dow and Setterfield to come in and play a role as what I do with Stocker.
I think for those who watch my VFL wrap, it was one of the things I'm confused about. I think back pocket is the worst place to play Stocker. I really do. And I watch him in the VFL. He gets a lot of cheap ball from the kick-ins, obviously. So you've probably got to deduct 10 touches every week because he gets a lot of them. But genuinely, his best work is being the conduit of that defence. And his best work is when he's playing 1-2s. I agree with you. I think he probably is. I would look at the VFL as who is the replacement for the senior player. I would say he is the Kennedy. He is the Hewitt. That would be how I would play him. There has to be a reason why Carlton don't. Now, I don't think we need the depth in back pocket. I think Boyd is your perfect back pocket. You look in the AFL, you look at Stocker's stats from the back pocket, it's nearly the worst in the comp. It's nearly the worst in the comp because all back pockets in the league have high spoil numbers or have high pressure act numbers or have high tackle numbers. He is ranking bottom 5% of every department. Boyd is in the good category for some of them stats when he's played there. I think he is. I think he is. Maybe that's something for next year. Carlton, look at that because I think that's probably the one area we don't have depth because this week you're going to see it. Last week you saw it. Dow wasn't Kennedy and it was obvious.
Yeah.
I think Stocker can do that. Stay behind the back of the pack. Be a body, get the handball away, keep the game moving.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we're nearing the end of these defensive learnings for him and we can really start seeing him, in whatever his best position is going to be. I mean, listen, there's plenty of time. He's so young and whatever plans they've got there for him, I'm sure, they know a lot more than what we do. But I'm starting to see a different shift in this back six. I think probably now because Marchbank's in. There's another serious one that he's seriously in our best 22, no questions asked, if he's fit and healthy. So, I'm just also staying mindful just to take it one game at a time with Marchie and just relax. First game in so long and hopefully the body can back it up. That's the next challenge. There's getting back to playing and then there's your body backing it up and being really sore and, we're on a short turnaround as well. So we'll see how that one plays out. Mate, let's touch on the VFL. You watched it, you reviewed it, you looked at it in depth. Maybe just add some more commentary around some of the most important things that, the fans need to know about what happened in the VFL.
Well, it looked like that they played predominantly Setterfield and Hayes probably stood out the most for the Chera job. Definitely looked at that rotation. I would say I'd say Setterfield's probably got his head in front if Carlton go with a safety option because he generally fell behind the back. Dow got a lot of the ball, but I love Dow. So before I say this, we've got to say I love Dow. I hope he does well. For me, I was watching him and then comparing him to what Chera does. And Chera generally gets the ball and he looks to go back behind the ball carrier to be there in support and run with. Dow runs ahead. And that was time and time again. A lot of the ball, but probably the most impactful 20-odd touches I've seen. Apart from the goal, Hayes and Setterfield did show more. If I was picking the team, Hayes would come in because I think then suddenly he's playing a very similar role. It was kind of like parts of the game he didn't and parts of the game he didn't play the Chera role. He played the Noons role, was literally down half-back, allowing players to get ahead of him. Then played a little bit on the half-forward, allowing Honey to go on the wing for spurts. Came on the ball then, allowed Setfield to go back on the wing. I would go Hayes first because I think it gives Carlton a lot of options. And I think he's got something about him, Hayes. So for me in this game, I think just watching that, I'd bring Hayes in as my only change. Because I think if they brought Durden in, Durden looked lost at times. God bless him. He had some great moments, though. Got some good intercept marks halfway up the ground, like Wheater in. There were some moments, though, you could see it, and it'd be way too defensive against Richmond, bringing in an extra toll. You might as well just admit you're going to lose the game. I think Hayes is the aggressive option. Kemp, though, thank Christ O'Keefe's done it. 50% forward, 50% back. I think the one area, if I was Voss, when Pitterneck comes back, you've talked about the back line. The forward line's fucked when Pitterneck comes back. because
Yeah.
they are going to play 2 ruckmen, and it's obvious over the last 3 weeks you need 2 ruckmen. I think suddenly Kemp has made a name for himself, look very composed down the back, but as the third tall option. So I think give it 3 or 4 weeks, he might be sniffing and going, you know what? Get me in. Get me in.
Okay, so the next part of the show I want to turn to is I've been talking a lot about this year about how I'm pretty confident 12 wins gets you into finals. You mentioned before, it's been the case that if you win 12 games, I think only once in the last decade, you haven't made finals. I look at the ladder right now, as it stands right now. The top 8, clearly, so first through to third have all won 10 games. We've won 9, and then 5th through to 8th have won 8 games already. Richmond, with the game in hand, have got 7 wins. The Dogs and the Suns are tied on 6 wins. So all of a sudden, it looks like, is it going to be 12 wins? I spoke to Josh Klebs. He was in my Twitter DMs today, and he put it on the agenda again. And I'm starting to think 13 wins is the magic number. Now, what a season it's turning out to be if that's the case.
Well, I mean, history has shown it's getting harder to make the finals. The gap is closing. 13, like we say, plays every final for the last 40 years. 12 of recent memory, only 2 since 2000 would you struggle, 1 on percentage and 1 just clear. So 13 wins has to be the aim. Has to be the aim as a minimum. And I'd hope every club, every fan would be saying 13 is all that we care about. 13, historically, you're always in. So for me, I'm with Voss on this, not looking at the wins, take the wins one by one, but just know in the back of your mind, you're 4 away.
Yep, spot on. So we'll look at the next 3 fixtures, and we've got teams who are all well and truly in the mix, mate. Well and truly. We play Richmond on Friday night. The week after, we play Fremantle here in Melbourne at Marvel for the second leg, we'll call it. And then we've got the Saints. So, we sort of do this in 2 to 3 week blocks. Those playing at home said that they wanted one of the next 2 out of Essendon and Richmond. So we'll see what happens. But between Richmond, Fremantle and St Kilda, what is the expectation? I mean, we always go expecting to win. Of course we do. But just in little blocks, how do you see it play out?
3 wins, top 4. 2 wins, top 8.
Yeah, it's a good test. But the thing is, I'm not as fearful of these 3 games, honestly, as what I was before round 1. When I looked ahead of the season, I looked at these fixtures, I thought, okay, this is going to be a struggle. I'm a lot more confident now.
Mate, when you look at history says teams that score from transition win the flag. Carlton, number 1 side in the comp, 6 weeks, and transition differential. Carlton, teams that win out of the centre and get first use, genuinely win the flag, or are there. Carlton, again, number 1 scoring team for centre clearance. Stoppage clearance is a good indicator as well, top 4. Carlton should be going into, and so should the fans. This is really important. Jesse Worthing earlier in the show made the comment, special shout out to the fans. We have a big influence.
Yes.
Fuck you do. Speak to the players. That they say you're a huge influence. You've got to be going into this game, not saying stupid things like danger game. Don't get ahead of ourselves. If you're one of them people that says, don't get cocky because we're going to lose, you're the type of person that screams at a waitress because the chef overcooked your steak, right? She didn't do it. We don't play the game. Our job, though, is to get these boys knowing where we are. We believe. And they should be going into this game going, Richmond fucking who? We took it in your backyard. You were ahead. We took it back. We'll do it again, whether it rains, whether it snows, whether Jesus Christ himself comes down and does a fucking sermon. We'll beat you. And tell you what, I hope we're 30 down at 3/4 time and we beat them again by 25 because we run over the top. So I can sing, it's happened again, happened again. You thought you beat us. It happened again. Fuck Richmond, dickhead.
It's a good point. I mean, listen, I asked the question, if you knew that going to the game would help give the team an extra 3% energy, I think everyone would do it. And I actually think people know that we do give them that extra percent energy, and it could not be more clear. They all talk about how it gives them a little bit of a lift. And I really do truly believe a team like Richmond, for example, part of the reason why they were able to surge the way they did when it clicked for them was because the fan base roared them through finals and roared them through some of the critical moments. Like, I look at this game on Thursday, and I think there's going to be so many critical moments that, they're going to be out on their feet, busted up, tired, sore, late in the third quarter, late in the fourth quarter. We've got to get there. It's a critical element in all of this.
They feel and see everything. You'd be shocked at the amount who look at social media, listen to videos, family members that pass on the messages. It's insane. When you speak to the players, they're very switched on. So whether you're in Timbuktu, in Italy, in France, Scotland, here, interstate, make it known you believe in them, because that energy transcends something that we don't know, and they feel it. They feel that energy, that belief, because it gives them belief. And anyone who's ever struggled, all it takes is one person to believe in you, and the world can change. So this is a big one, It's a tough game. You don't have to say danger game, though. Richmond have won a few of these flags in recent years. Do you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure Melbourne knew Collingwood was a danger game. Every side can beat every side. Carlton have got to go in this, chests out. We've beaten you once. We can fucking do it again. We beat you without our two superstars, and we'll do it again without them.
Spot on. Let's talk about the changes for Richmond. So, Pom, you sort of just touched on it before, but for those of you playing at home, what would your changes be? Pom, what would your final selection be, assuming that Chera will miss?
Well, I think Chesney's done for a week at least. So Chesney out, and I'd go bold. Hayes in.
Straight in. Plays the system, knows the system.
Mate, he's been the main man in VFL. If you've watched VFL from the start, he is the man, the main ball user, the quarterback. Bring him in. Off you go, Hazy. Show us what you've done.
Yeah, I like it. A lot of people are asking for Sam Durden to come in. If Marchbank's playing, where would Durden fit? Because I still think we need someone like Jordan Boyd in there, because the Tigers still have dangerous smalls in their forward line.
Yeah, of course they do. I mean, I think Boyd, for me, in this game, all Boyd does is he stays there, holds his width, holds his position, makes himself awkward, looks for the overlap run, and do you know what I mean? He's ahead on the pressure numbers, and that's huge. That's huge against these guys. So for me, try and keep it as minuscule as possible. But yeah, I'd say my change would either be Cotters if they keep him in, or Hayes. But if you bring in someone in, probably Hayes.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on one of the final things. I want to touch on the Bailey Smith situation.
Oh, God.
And the reason why I want to touch on the Bailey Smith situation is because, in this instance, it was revealed what happened, photos, screenshots, etc. Many a time, the screenshots are not posted publicly. I actually think the league did a relatively good job of the way it was handled. I think Bailey Smith did a really good job in the way it was handled in owning it. And just kind of reminded me, just to be very careful with such situations, because you don't know what's happening, first of all, in your own backyard. Just because there hasn't been something happen with one of our players doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Not that I know of anything, but you just want to be careful, because later on down the track, it's the young guys, mistakes get made. These are real life situations. And I just would hope that we would show that respect and that understanding of what the real world is, not this pretend world that people try and project.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's close to my heart. So as a former drug addict myself, I was very fortunate to have people that loved me around me. And if I didn't, probably wouldn't be here now. So whether you like me or hate me, thank you to them people that stuck by me. I think it's important for me. You've got to firstly remember you should be punished for everything you do, regardless of what's going on in your life. You have to face the consequences. So before I say my opinion, don't think I'm condoning what he's done. He needs to be punished. He needs to face the ramifications of his actions. But when we start saying things like, using the mental health card, and this is all come from men, I've seen very few women. When you're fortunate enough like me to work with vulnerable children and volunteer time and teenagers, I have the same story. My levels of mental health and knowledge came from older men and people that I looked up to in the workplace or in life, my parents. And when I hear people just use that to get out of an excuse, that would have deterred me from coming out and saying, look, I need help. So that's the first thing we've got to remember. And the second thing is Bailey Smith, February 2021, said that he had serious mental health issues. He was struggling with his issues from being a draftee and the pressure and the burden. And he'd sought the AFL's advice for mental health. December 2021, which is incidentally when the video comes from. So if you are watching who leaked that and you're his mate, you are a villainous wanker for doing that. If you know your mate was actually actively on paid leave, seeking mental health for personal issues that he had. And the club confirmed that in December 2021, he wasn't returning to training because he had gone into mental health, got a mental health plan. So it's not the first time he's had it. And I think the fact he's been brave and he's been honest about it and he's owned it, fantastic. You've got to remember at the moment, these players are tested more than ever because of COVID. So you speak to the players, they're getting a lot of drug tests at the moment. So for me, never cast judgment on someone else's pain. And I hope he seeks the help he needs. And I wish him all the best because he's got a wonderful opportunity now to be a great role model to people because he plays the game tough. He's a sexy young man, very good looking boy, very, very intuitive. And you kind of like him. He's that rogue, isn't he? So let's hope he does the right thing. He gets the help around him. And I wish him nothing but the best. Because I'll tell you what, when I was 22, snorting a line of cocaine with some girls would have been the least of the things people could tell you about when I was 22. That looks like Disney. So God be with him. Let's hope we all get around him. And just remember, when you make these posts on the internet, there is someone impressionable who looks up to you. Believe it or not, people look up to me. It scares me. But always have that in your mind. When you post, you are influencing someone else, potentially, of not coming out and seeking the help they need. So if you're struggling, reach out. If you don't have anyone, reach out to me. Uncle Pom will give you all a kiss.
No, it's good. I think it's a good learning curve that you can learn from other people's mistakes. That's a real little life hack in life. I found anyway. And I'm just mindful that it could happen to anyone. There's all sorts of stories. There's all sorts of things that are going on in this ridiculously high pressured environment that the players play under, and that search for normality is probably something it's really tough because they're in this bubble. Particularly when you're talking about hubs last year, and you look at Melbourne right now. If you're a high profile athlete, it's tough to go out and do the normal thing, without being stopped and all of that. So a good reminder. Now, we're going to turn it up a little bit because tomorrow night, 8 p.m., the Jumper Punch will be airing. And episode 39, so when you think of the great number 39s, this is a man I'm about to show you right now. This is a man who doesn't talk much. We all know this. He hasn't been on many interviews since he retired. Have a look at what's in store tomorrow night, ladies and gents.
If you thought I was a cold hero at Carlton, check out the heroes on Jumper Punch every Tuesdays at 8 o'clock.
Woof! That is it.
So the big Ange Christou will be a part of the show tomorrow, and then the full interview will be out the following day. I'm going to give you a little excerpt that Rocco sent to me today. I'll probably just read the first half of the message. He just said he sent me through the Ange Christou promo. It's the best ever interview by any player in the history of interviews, is what he said. He said, trust me. And then second, we also have X name interview for our big 50th anniversary of the 72 grand final. So I'm telling you now, it just keeps rising and rising. So stay tuned tomorrow, 8 p.m. The Jumper Punch boys will be on that bloody beautiful couch, and I'm sure they're going to have a lot to say. And they just keep going from strength to strength. I think everyone does. Pom, you as well. Everyone seems to be going from strength to strength. It's very special.
Oh, thank you, Terry. But they are doing a good job. They are. Rocco, we know, does a lot of work. Mars, impeccable. And Paolo doesn't need any bigging up from me. He's already perfect in every way, especially now he stops shopping at Baby Gap. So, that's a good one. So, good to see.
I didn't say this. I had the very big privilege of sitting with Paolo, Marcello, Mr. Maloney was there. It was a lot of fun. It was the first time I've actually gone to a game, with them. So if you are around them, you need to go and sit with them because it's just different. It's
Jesus, you were with Maloney. That might be the first time you've been in a room and not been the best looking person there. Jesus.
Good looking rooster, Mr. Maloney. I'll tell you what.
He is. He is indeed. He'd turn me if I wasn't happily married with kids. Love it.
Also, my round 14 preview will be up within the hour. So if you're one of the late night owls, stay tuned. I'm going to get that out as soon as possible. I will commit to getting it out before 9 p.m. So stay tuned for that. Pommy, thank you very much, my friend. Pleasure as always. We'll speak to you guys soon. Short turnaround. Gear up. Big game Thursday night. Go the Mighty Blues.
Go Blues.